Hello, welcome to In Case You Wanted to Know. Thanks for joining us. My name's John. We have Derek in the house, as well as the illustrious, because I didn't use my thesaurus this morning, the illustrious Mr. Jim Henderson. How are you guys?
We're doing fine. Well. Thanks, John.
Good. So listen, what's that?
You're doing fine. You're in a t-shirt. I'm up here with Derek. It must be like 30 degrees at your house.
Yeah, it's cold in New Hampshire compared to Florida. I made my move and I brought the cold air. You brought the cold air up, and everybody's
well. The good
complaining
news
about
is it will warm up because I'm leaving on Monday. So the hell with it. You guys will be warmer down up here.
I'm the only smart guy that stayed in a temperate climate.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Terrible.
What do we got? What do we have on the agenda today, John?
Speaking of all things weather, we are now or mere days away from the start of hurricane season down here in Florida and the southeastern United States, and these days even part of the East Coast, going all the way up into the Northeast. So I thought it might be a good time to talk about hurricane preparation and the very smart choice to engage in hurricane storage activities, getting your stuff put away before the storms come. All of us have, or the three of us anyway, have all experienced some pretty major hurricane related weather over the years. And we've also worked in an industry that can help people be ready for big storms to come through. So I figured we'd chat about it. Before we get into things, I figured I'd drop some hurricane data and facts from last year. We had two major storms, Hurricanes Helene and Milton, come through. Those two storms alone caused, we'll call it significant damage. Helene estimated to cost $78.7 billion in damages, and Milton caused $34 billion in damages. Some kind of damages you're just not going to be able to avoid, but there are ways that you can mitigate the risk. And part of mitigating the risk is making smart moves long before storms ever get here. Derek can speak very deeply about the hassles with insurance if you have damages. 247,000 insurance claims were filed in Florida alone for Hurricane Milton, with a combined estimated loss of $2.8 billion. And the economic impact of the damage that these storms did was astronomical. It was estimated across the U.S. to be approximately $500 billion in economic impact from these storms. Again, some of these things we can't avoid, but there are ways that we can be a little more prepared. We can protect ourselves, our family, our things. So I figured we'd talk about them today.
Sure.
Well, in relation to that, this is a podcast that's focused on sustainability. And if you are proactive prior to said hurricanes, it is considered a sustainable practice to take your stuff, your invaluable things, and put them into storage. And this is something that we do every single day for clients in Southwest Florida, right up through the East Coast. And, part of that is we've talked about, upcycling. Well, you don't have to recycle or get rid of anything if you maintain it. Yeah. And that comes with proactivity. So it is a fitting topic for today.
There's a lot of things to discuss because I think we know the phrase "show me the money," and all of what you just mentioned, John. There's a money trail to this, and as you're saying, Derek, there's a way to prevent or change that money trail. The damages in these hurricanes over the past 10 or 15 years, particularly in Florida, because there's more and more people in Florida, fewer and fewer, because some people have just said, I don't want to do the hurricanes anymore. But we still have a ever increasing population in Florida, so more and more people are impacted. And I think it is important, particularly people that aren't familiar with hurricanes and just how they can affect your possessions. Just think of Hurricane Ian in 2022. There was a storm surge in one of the largest storm surges since the Great Galveston one in Hurricane Andrew in 1992. But we saw in Fort Myers a 15-foot storm surge. So you're at sea level, and anything below 15 feet was destroyed. So a lot of cars were gone, a lot of power, energy, because you don't have your energy out of water's harm. And so all the electrical boxes and stuff, we have a friend, she was 2 blocks from the beach in Naples, and she had a sunken living room, and that was a bathtub. But all of her garage was 4 or 5 feet under, and so all the electrical panels. And by the time you start pulling the layers back, they had to tear the house down, of course. But whatever's in your home, whether it be a car in the garage or your keepsakes in boxes, because in Florida there's no basements, so which is good.
Yeah.
Because it'd really be bad with a hurricane. But
Mhm.
since you don't have a basement, a lot of people put stuff in storage in closets. And we went to one woman's house, and this is true. It was sad. An older woman, she had all of her family pictures, and she had moved like 4 or 5 years ago, and they just safely put things in a closet. Well, the closet was 4 feet of water in there because they were near the beach. And so all those family pictures were gone, and you don't get them back. And so money doesn't, what you were saying, John, you get these billions of dollars of losses, but the intangible losses you can't
Yeah.
even put up, because she was hoping they could be restored. And I said, they're just all water damage. These are photos, these are pictures, from generations back, and all gone. It's sad. And so, yeah, there's steps you have to think about. Where do I live? How close am I to the water? Is my home secure from water coming in? And it doesn't have to be a flood.
Mm-mm.
It can just be rain coming in through the soffit and getting down into your sheetrock, and then mold collecting in your house. And now, anything on your wall is now got mold on it.
And that's what happened to me. Is I had one, basically 3 rooms in my house where the soffit blew off. I'm pretty confident a tornado, as part of Hurricane Ian, tore through our neighborhood, took out massive trees, and also ripped all the soffit off, blew a bunch of water into my bathroom and my kids' rooms. They lost a lot of sentimental things to them from their youth, and we had to throw it out. And so this hits home for me, because if I had the resources to every year take things, if I were living in Florida again, take the things that I care about, family heirlooms, my collections, whatever it may be, and put it into William C. Huff's Category 5 climate controlled storage, I would. But looking back, if I could, I would.
You'd find a way to do it. If you'd stayed in Florida, you'd find a way to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky because I'm a nerd. So full disclosure, I've got comic books, I've got Star Wars toys, I've got, some collectibles, I've got a Harrison Ford autograph, and I don't want that stuff destroyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would put it away if I could.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's some we want to talk about practical things. If it doesn't fit in like a watertight Rubbermaid type thing, even a watertight Rubbermaid in a garage, because we saw it after Ian, it's not watertight.
Yeah.
Water's going to get into it. If there's going to be a hurricane, if you've got an attic, put it up there. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, just get it away from where the flooding would happen, and either get a small self-storage 10 miles inland, because even a 14-foot storm surge isn't going to go 10 miles inland, or hire a company. There are companies like ours that will offer service to come in and pick things up and put them away during hurricane season. And it's not that big of cost, particularly considering the potential loss. And as you mentioned, Derek, and I know the pain that you went through, because the whole, and I think we really should talk about the insurance thing, and I can talk for days on that, but the whole length of time that it took for you to process and get some type of satisfaction was almost 2 years, wasn't it?
It was 2 years. So
Yeah.
So I had $126,000 of estimated damage on my house. The insurance company offered me $12,000. So I had to get a public adjuster. Public adjuster went through, and even the public adjuster, I had to strong arm them into going to the campuses at the hotels. So all the insurance companies would come there. And I lived at the time in Port Charlotte. They would take over a hotel in Punta Gorda, and I would strong arm my public adjuster to come over from Miami. He told me he had 133 clients, so I was just one of many. And he came over, and he finally, after about a year and 8 months, was able to get it settled. And then I was able to get all the work done. And it took me until February of last year to get the house complete, to back to where it was before.
Sure.
And we used every penny of the 126,000. And then when I sold the house, there was still things that I still had to pay out of pocket, another $8,000 to just get it to a point where I could put it on the market, sell it, and it would pass inspection. So it was actually over what I ended up getting in terms of damages.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
You know, the power of a hurricane to come ripping through an area can be, I'm a big weather person. I love it. I get excited. I will say that as I get older, I am less excited when a big storm is on the way. But so these huge weather patterns come through, and they can be traumatic events for people unlike me who don't, you know, who are made scared and nervous by this sort of thing. So you have the storm itself, which can be a really awful thing to go through. And if you are in an area where you lose power, all of us have lost power. The first big storm here, we were without power at my house for 2 weeks. My entire neighborhood was out. That's another traumatic event. You're driving around through town and you see the area you live, just, it varies area to area, of course, but devastation everywhere. Huge damage to homes, the natural environment torn to shreds. That's traumatic. And then when you start getting back to your life, then you get to deal with the often very painful experience like Derek had of dealing with insurance, and the fact that it can last not for weeks or months, but years. So these horrible weather events can really turn into the gift that keeps on giving.
It's still giving. You know, just to give you an idea, my insurance, my homeowner's insurance, by the end of when I sold it, $1,000 a month because I did a claim.
Yep.
$1,000 a month was added to my mortgage payment because I how dare I do a claim and then challenge them and not
That's
take.
so they can get their money back in 10 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
And but then it keeps going for me because I moved up here. I'm deciding where I want to buy. And so I'm renting for a year. I had to take renter's insurance. Well, guess what? My renter's insurance is higher because my claim is still on my record.
Yeah.
My home
In Florida.
in Florida, even though I'm living in New Hampshire now.
Jeez.
And on top of that, my auto insurance, that claim shows up on the auto insurance. So Progressive is like, oh, well, you did a claim. So I pay more money for my car insurance as well because of that claim. And so all these insurance companies are all in this together, and they all are looking for reasons. So if you go and you do a claim, again, you're going to get ridiculed. You are going to be put on a list, and you are going to pay a premium for all insurance. So going back to, it behooves you to protect your things, put your things into storage. But there is parts of this with a hurricane that you can't control other than you go start talking to your representatives, grassroots to get insurance. You know, the insurance industry just needs to be overturned, gutted. It's corrupt.
Just to put it that really put an exclamation mark on what you just said, Derek. I did a little Google work a couple of days ago on the claims that went in on Ian. Ian was the fourth strongest wind storm that we had, and that they clocked 150 miles an hour with Ian. Storm surge. So it's one of the more costly storms because of the storm surge. On the NOAA list of top 10 for Florida, there were thousands and thousands of claims, and less than half of them got paid out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe the number that I came up with was a small number, like 5 billion actually got paid out on, 50 billion in claims. They paid out like 10% on it. Meanwhile, across the board, you have close to 8,500 homeowners and condo owners in Florida whose average rate of insurance went up 18%. If you take an 18% increase across that number of people with an average of almost $7,000 a year, now those that put the claims in went up a lot more. Mine, because I put a claim in way back for Irma, and they had to put 20,000 into putting a new roof on went up by $7,000 a year. So they're going to get their money back a lot faster. You know, they do it a little slower the bigger the claim, but a $20,000 claim, the insurance company has it set up, they're going to make it back in 3 years. Derek, they'll make it back in about 10 years because it was a much bigger claim, right? So collectively, the insurance industry is bringing in $37 billion more a year right now, only paying out less than 10 billion. So they've made a lot of money on insurance, no matter what they say. There is, and it's highly regulated. You don't have a choice to, because they drop you. I mean, my insurance dropped me. And then I got a notice from my mortgage company that it was going to go from 3,000. It was going to go up by another 6,000. So it more than doubled per year. So it's now at 9,000. And I don't have a choice as long as you have a mortgage.
Yep.
And so theoretically, they're going to make their money back in a little less than, a little more than 2 years on the $20,000 claim. But it doesn't come down. It just stays up. What goes up never comes back down.
Yeah.
So in my 46 years of owning property, multiple warehouses, multiple different homes all over, I've probably paid in over $1 million in insurance premiums for contents and for damages. I put one claim in 46 years, and they more than doubled my insurance on my home because of it. So people need to be aware. Don't rely on insurance because they are not going to take care of you. I'm sorry if you work for an insurance company. If you're a Geico hearing this, shame on you. Really, in case you wanted to know, these are the facts. You can Google it yourself. Anyone can. And it's astounding. I encourage people to go in and to know what the reality is. They're not going to pay. Everyone's insurance went up 18%. So those that didn't put a claim in still were paying for Derek and I's claim, and we're paying even more for that claim. And that's what happens in the insurance industry. And eventually, like condo associations, one of the big things is they suffer the brunt of it because you've got multiple units in a building and they're all insured through a blanket coverage. And think about it, John, with Ian, all those condos on the beach, the first and second floor on some of those older ones were gone. And so everybody in that building got hit with assessments, major assessments, and now their association fees have more than doubled. And so if you look on, you showed it to me the other day, Derek, the number of condos for sale in Florida, it's astronomical not because people don't want to be there. They can't afford the insurance.
And I can tell you that being in the unit that I'm in up here, rent is far cheaper than Florida right now. Yeah. The cost of electricity is cheaper. The cost of water, everything is cheaper up here. And I do believe that a lot of this has to do with the possibility of a hurricane coming through, and you're already paying for it ahead of time in Florida right now.
Yeah, it's pull up I didn't mean to mention a power bill for Florida. There is a note, and I pulled it up. I might have sent it to you, John. On the right-hand side, down in the bottom corner, there'll be notes. And I went back several years, and there's notes in there. There will be adjustments to your rate for storm-related charges. Mm-hmm. So even your electricity is affected, the amount when the storm was going through. So you're paying a rate, but in addition to the what you're paying for your power, there's a surcharge. And once it goes on, it doesn't really come off. Although I did, the one major company in Florida, I won't mention the name, did have a front page the couple, 3 or 4 months ago, saying that they'd overcharged on their surcharge for the, and that they were going to give back the homeowners $3.9 million. And I divided that through to the almost 9 million homeowners and renters in Florida. And it worked out to like, I don't know, I think I mentioned this before, like $2.50 for the year.
You can buy yourself a Coke at the gas station.
For each homeowner, whatever it was, you couldn't even get a hamburger at McDonald's for that. But it was front page, and it did look like, they were doing a really, really nice thing. But when you think about 17 cents a kilowatt hour and et cetera, times whatever the percentage they put on there, they brought in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
And that's a
in
marketing
addition to
expense.
the regular profits. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all it is it's PR.
When you've paid all this money and then you think, oh, I got insurance, they'll take care of it. And then watching what you had to go through, Derek, was crazy. I mean, I didn't have as much of a problem because we know people in the industry of roofing and they were able to fight the insurance company. And speaking of fighting, when I looked at the Ian thing, this is really telling. It was estimated that between 10 and $20 billion was spent on litigation on claims related to Ian. In other words, almost 3 times as much as was paid in litigation to not pay out anymore.
To not pay people.
To not pay people.
Insanity.
And
And
so
look,
they paid almost $20 billion to stop it at around $5 billion in payoffs on over $50 billion in claims.
Yeah, and we know that people will try and commit fraud and they will try and submit, fake claims and all that. So yes, there is a reason that insurance companies need to fight that sort of thing. But so many innocent people who have legitimate claims and suffered legitimate losses wound up getting rolled into that group of people and don't get what the insurance companies were designed to protect them with.
Yeah, we had this friend that lost everything, and the insurance company just refused to reinsure ever again her property because it was totaled. So here's somebody that's paid for 37 years for a house near the beach, and then now she can't even insure it. So unless she's self-insured, which is what she'd have to be, she couldn't even get premiums, let alone afford them. But they just refused to ever insure because it was a total loss. And they were like, okay, well, it's $1.5 million to replace the house. And so anyway, yeah, that's the game.
It's wild. I'm going to put chapter markers in this episode because we're touching on a lot of different things on the actual on ideas for prep, storage related topics, the insurance and the madness behind it. So I'm going to make sure we chop this up so people can easily jump right to the stuff that they want to learn about.
Let's look at what as our company, what we do and why it's important. First of all, if you are going to use, and it's not a plug for us, it's a plug for anyone that has facilities and ability to get your things out of harm's way. We have a Cat 5 certified addition on our roof, on our warehouse. When Irma came through and we clocked 142 miles an hour, that building didn't even move. I mean, you didn't even know we were inside. And and the strongest wind speed, by the way, of any hurricane in Florida to date, according to NOAA, was the Labor Day hurricane 1935 at 185 miles an hour. So when people say, oh no, 200 miles an hour, no, 185. And it was typically, according to NOAA, for every mile inland, it loses 20% of the wind speed. So number 2 was Andrew in 1992 at 165 miles an hour. And Michael in 18. But Charlie, which I was there for Charlie, and we saw the effects of Charlie in around our warehouse. A lot of older condos on the beach, just the windows blew out and everything. So what happened was they put everything to 150 mile an hour wind speeds. Well, then you bring Wilma in, that was also about 150 and not so much windows, but roofs and power lines came down big time with Irma. I'm sorry.
Do you have an obsession with Wilma Flintstone?
No. Wilma
are you sure?
I'm
a Betty guy, but
no. Wilma's one of my dear girlfriends, the owner of Preferred Travel in Naples, and my wife and I have this thing because we do travel with Preferred, and I've known Wilma through a lot of network. She, like our company, does a lot of charity work in the area, in the community. One of the finest business women you'd ever meet. But I keep getting Irma and Wilma mixed up. Yeah. But I think I'm just thinking of my girlfriend Wilma. But anyway, Irma just took down power lines and stuff, and so that's why we were all without power for like 3 weeks. And whatnot. But now everything's the new code, the new code. So now the new code for Naples is the same as Miami. These new structures built to the Miami-Dade code are so resilient. And you would think the insurances would come down because anything built on the beach now has to be at 14 or 15 feet, I think. They have to be built to the 225. Windows, doors. I mean, the house that we're doing right now, it's 6, 7 miles off, maybe even 10 miles off the beach.
Yeah,
But
at
we still
least.
have to do beach. We don't have to go up 14 or 15 feet because it's not a flood zone. But the wind speed has to be the same, even though NOAA statistics show that it would never, ever be. If 225 on the beach is going to be around 170 at the most, 10 miles inland. And even that, it's built to 225. So you've got almost a 70% built-in reassurance nothing's going to happen with these steel buildings. Well, anyway, to let people know that we have the ability to put things, we're not in a flood zone. Our warehouse is not in a flood zone, so we're not worried about storm surge. We didn't take any water. Ian was a 10-foot storm surge in Naples, but again, we're 4, 5, 6 miles inland, so that's not a problem. We took in no water. The roofs were fine. Our building didn't take any damage whatsoever. So those are the things that you want to look for, historical data on warehouses and companies that are storing things. We do know some storage companies that were maybe less than they were in the flood zone, and people that had stuff there lost it all. And
Yeah.
we know those companies.
Yeah,
So,
there were a few warehouses here in Naples, Florida,
Yeah.
that were total losses.
yeah, because they were in that flood zone, and so know where the flood zone is. So when these things start coming out and people are starting to think about what might be coming, don't wait until it's there. You know what's going to happen. Think about what you're going to do with those things. I mean, again, we've seen it. We've been there. We've been to these older homes on the beach, condos, where I remember seeing a named
one of the
painting.
masters. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the masters, and it was at sea level. And all I could think of is even a 4-foot storm surge, that thing is gone.
Mhm.
And it was a 3-story townhouse, so just put it up on the second floor. If you're in a three-story townhouse, get everything off the first floor, put it up at least the second, and if you get a third, put it up there.
Well, let's take it back to the basics of hurricane prep, like considering the risks of your home, be it a home, a condo, whatever. This is probably going to be a little more single family home based, but consider the risks. You've got heavy winds, storm surge, flooding, the occasional tornado like Derek experienced. First, determine if you're in a flood prone area. There are flood maps all over the place.
Yep,
You can
right.
easily find them.
Yep.
Find out what evacuation zone you're in. Cities, counties, townships will dictate, these are the zones that absolutely have to evacuate and get the hell out of Dodge. Identify the structural risks to your home. When your home was built, did they use roofing straps, hurricane straps on the roof? That makes a huge difference with these super high powered winds.
Right.
If you have a basement, which most of us in Florida don't, you are probably at a higher risk of flooding down there. The
Right.
trees around your house are a huge risk. I live out in a very wooded, large property here outside Naples, Florida. And this is totally relevant to my life, what we're talking about today. I've got to have guys come out and remove probably 10 or 12 trees that are in damage of falling on my house. You have to
Yeah.
look at that sort of stuff, window and door protection. And then the little things, storing away your patio furniture, your lawn decor, things that become missiles with
Sure.
even 80, 90 mile an hour winds.
Kayaks. I had a kayak in my pool.
Yeah, yeah. That did not belong to you.
It was not my kayak.
So those are some of the basics that you can do for storm prep in and
Yeah.
around your home. The next level is what we've alluded to earlier, and that is getting some of these items out of your home altogether and in a safe place where you don't have to worry about it. If you're one of those folks that is fortunate enough to own multiple homes, and one of those homes is in a hurricane alley, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, any of those states where we are known to get big storms, wouldn't you much rather, a lot of folks go north for the summer. Great. Wouldn't you rather feel comfortable knowing that if you see a storm coming towards your second home in Florida or Texas, that you don't have to race back down and deal with it? Call a reputable company and have them come and get those high value items out of the house safely put away into storage. You can rest easy knowing that regardless of what happens, your fine art collection or your wine collection or whatever, your family's precious items are safe.
We have people with very, very expensive clothes. Get your clothes
Yeah.
out. I mean,
Jewelry.
even if you're not, even if you're not in a flood zone, there's danger of water getting in.
Yeah.
And then mold will, if power goes out for, even a few days and you don't have backup power, and it gets up in the 90s inside a closed-in environment, mold starts within a few days. Once you get above 80 degrees, mold and water
it's a bad combination.
It's a really bad combination.
You mentioned, sorry, Derek, but Jim, you mentioned backup power, backup generators.
Sure.
If a generator is something you're thinking about doing, be it a whole house backup gen or a portable generator, right now, today is the time to act on that.
Oh, sure. You're not going to get them in a month from now. They're all.
Do not wait a couple of weeks. Do not wait a couple of months. Certainly don't wait until there's a storm on the radar, because they are not going to be available and you're going to be the guy without a chair when the music has stopped. So if you have interest in a generator, do not mess about and go get it right now. And then once you have it, you've got to make sure you have stable fuel, be it a propane generator or whatever.
After Irma, I got it right this time, at my house, because, we had power out for over 2 weeks. I said, never again. So as you know, I called Always On Generator. There's a company that I can vouch for, Always On Generator. And we got a quote. And when I redid everything and we went solar and 100% sustainability in my house with the batteries, we also put in the backup generator. And for 11 or 12,000, the peace of mind knowing that the entire house is now, no matter what, 100% sustainable if power goes out. Because even if the sun's not out, the generator can charge my batteries and I can run every single thing in my house without even missing 1 second of energy. But yeah, get a backup generator, get a whole house one if you can. They're safe, and you'll be thankful because it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when. And
they're coming.
And the worst time is to be not prepared for it when it does. And then you always say, no, I'm going to take care of that. But 2 years later, no storms, no hurricane. I'll get to it. And then when it's a problem, it's too late.
One last thing just to bring up in regards to hurricane preparedness is looters. And I had to sit, and Jim, you were nice enough, to take my kids and have them stay with you. Me and the dog had to sit, and we had no power. We had no air conditioning. I sat with my skivvies with no shirt on, like a caveman, and protected my house from looters. And
you're absolutely right. I didn't even think of the fact that there's a crime aspect too.
There is, and if you get your valuables out of your home prior to a hurricane, looters are not going to. I mean, even if they get in and you're not there, they're not going to be able to take what's not there.
Yeah, they're not looking for TVs anymore unless it's a really expensive one. What they're looking for is collectibles, and jewelry, things like that. They're going to go after. The collectible stuff just gets more valuable as time goes on. So you want to get those things out of there.
And so that's it there.
Yeah.
That's all I had. You and John did a great job of covering all my notes. So nice job, guys.
Yeah, thanks
for the notes. The reason we could cover it so well is because we lived it, we watched it, we saw it, and we said we don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Hurricane. If you've not experienced a hurricane before, even for somebody like me who is excited by big weather, hurricanes can be absolutely terrifying. And over the years, I have experienced enough and sustained. Fortunately, I've been very lucky. None of my homes have sustained damage, but my properties have. And I've been trapped on my own property and not be able to get out because of fallen trees and stuff. Hurricanes can be horrifying, deadly, devastating weather patterns. And over the years, I consider myself very fortunate that I am very well prepared. I'm sitting in my studio at home right now. I've got a giant generator to my left that in fact will be hooking up to charge the batteries for the auto start, all that stuff. You have to do it now. That's the thing about being prepared. You're not prepared unless you're ready before, and you don't know when it's coming. So you always have to be ready this is the season. Be smart, make good decisions. And if you can afford it and it works for you and you have the items, have a company like William C. Huff come and grab that valuable stuff, get it out of your house, safely stored away, and then you don't have to worry about it.
And we'll
So-
bring it back and stage it the way
Yeah.
it
All
was.
right, to wrap this up, guys, John, this is very important, and I think anyone that views this and looks at it needs to see it. It's very important, probably the most important thing. If you could put the clip in of me standing outside our warehouse with my iPhone holding onto the gutter in 142-mile-an-hour winds.
What you're about to hear is the sound of rain smacking a cell phone at over 140 miles an hour.
I will find the
Because
footage and
I
post it.
kind of thought that was fun too until I tried to stand up, and then it just took me about 60 feet into the parking lot.
Well, this is all good stuff. I appreciate the time. I think it's a great conversation, and hopefully
Right.
one person gets something out of this. We've done a good thing. Good stuff, gentlemen. I
All
can't
right,
wait
guys.
to do the
Thanks.
next one.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
See
Jay.
ya.
See you soon. Bye.